Great. So today I want to talk about this basically map. Now, this is of the states, again, keep in mind, but the numbers are going to be very, very similar in Canada. I don't think there'd be much of a difference, if any. So take that for what you will. But like I said, I would be shocked if there's any more than a very slight difference between Canada and the US. So why I wanted to talk about this is that when it comes to the topic of immigration, this is what needs to be talked about because the left will have you think that it's about racism, and the right is you have some of the more establishment right wingers that support mass immigration because it can help them. The corporations make money, and it's cheap labor and whatnot. And in the left, it's cheap labor for them too. So it's a win-win for the left. But the real reason that the left supports immigration is because it's more votes for them. That's just plain and simple. It's more votes for them. There's obviously other aspects. That's not the only aspect, but that's by quite a large margin the main reason. And for the right, it's the exact opposite. For all the lefties watching this video, it's not because the average right winger is racist or xenophobic or anything under that umbrella. It's because, well, if you're on the right, you want more right wing policies, and more third world immigrants, or in a lot of these cases, women, voting means less votes for your side. So it's just sheer self interest on both sides. It's not There's no nefarious intentions, it's just sheer self interest. So stop ascribing nefarious intentions to people when that's clearly not the case on average. Of course, there's some racists on the right that don't want immigrants because they're racist, and of course, there's people from Mexico that are right wingers, and there's women that are right wingers, and people from Africa that are right wingers. Okay, I understand those exist. We're talking about averages, so for all the for lack of a better word, idiots that bring that up that really don't know how to think clearly. I'm talking about averages. I understand there's exceptions to the rule. Now, getting into the map, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. If just people of color voted in the states, every single state would go Democrat. And yes, you heard that right. Every single state would go Democrat. So just think about that for a second. All the right wingers that are on the fence about whether or not they want to limit immigration or not, probably want to think about this one right here. If just women voted, the delegate count would be 461 to 71. That's dominant win. If just women voted, again, so for all the people that are, I don't think that women necessarily shouldn't have the right to vote. I think we should definitely recognize that women shouldn't have had the right to vote in the past because of the draft mainly. But we need to be more honest with that. And the other thing too to point out is that the whole system's set up more or less to get women to vote rather than men. And that's a different video in and of itself. But getting into it, if just men voted, it would be 350 to 158 for the Republicans. So the Republicans would win pretty easy. It's a pretty clear win. Um, if just whites voted, it'd be 369 to 169, I believe that is. So if just whites voted, it would again be a dominant right wing victory. So for all the right wingers or even centrists out there that are on the fence about whether or not they support mass immigration, you're going to want to freshen up on this kind of stuff because Canada, and to a lesser degree the states, is pumping them in at a very large amount. And like I always say, I'm not completely against immigration. I think it should have always been done and should be done on a much smaller scale. And there should be no free healthcare, welfare, or any of that kind of stuff. Um, but like I say, I just want to clarify too for all the people that are like, oh, you're a zero immigration, far right guy. No, I'm actually not. I think it could be done, but on a very small scale. And the only people that can be coming are working and not taking jobs from locals that would otherwise want those jobs. But going over to white women, and again, this is one that does make women, at least white women, look pretty good. 327 to 211 for the Republicans. So that's still a pretty clear win. And if you look at the states too, it's really just the liberal states. You got your New York, California. That's a massive amount of delegates right there. It looks like about 80% of the states, probably 75-80% of the states are Republican. So I mean, if you know a white woman in any of those states, chances are most of them are Republican. College-educated whites, 322 to 216 for the Republicans. Um, Non-college educated whites. Again, this is another thing too for all the people that claim, oh, well, public schools and colleges aren't biased. That they're not. There's not a left-wing bias. Okay, well then, how do you describe or explain this massive difference? Massive difference. Even California, even non-college educated whites in California, which is the most liberal state that exists, is still would still be a Republican state. Again, so for all the people that claim that there's no bias in colleges and universities and public schools, you have no evidence to back up your claim. So I don't understand why you're making that. It really makes no sense. But anyway, if just white men voted, and again, 493 to 45, so more than 10 times as many Republican delegates as there would be Democrat. And for anyone wondering, well, why does the left have such hatred for white men? Here it is. It's because they're the of all the groups of people that differ from them politically, white men is that group, and that's why they hate them so much. That's why they always vilify them so much. So, for all the people that are wondering that, well, there you go. But anyway, that's pretty much the whole thing there. They do throw the asterisk in here at the bottom is the reason they didn't break down the people of color vote into various groups by gender, ethnicity or education level is that no matter how you break it down, it's always 100% Democrat. So for anyone wondering about that, again, that's another scary thing to think about. But again, basically to sum it up, the reason why Republicans and conservatives generally want less immigration is because it suits their own self interest. And it's the exact opposite for people on the left. The reason why they support immigration is because it suits their own self interest. Now, the difference being is that people saying, well, why do you care then? The problem is that the way that immigration is being done, especially in Canada, is that they're doing it in such a massive, uncontrolled way that it's destabilizing the country. I mean, look at Sweden, even in Canada, housing prices have shot up. There's, a lot of tons of these people are ending up homeless. And if you actually cared about them, it's a lot cheaper to resettle them closer to their own home country anyway. So if you actually cared about them, you'd send money to resettle them closer to home. But the people don't actually care. Like I said, it's just their own self-interest. And another reason why the left supports it is that they really can't. They're having a lot of trouble winning elections lately, other than in Canada, but that's partially due to the fact that we've had immigration so high for so long. Is that, like I say, they need help winning elections, and if they can import people of color, then that's going to help them out a lot. And a lot of them in Canada and the States vote illegally, so that's another aspect too. But basically, I wanted to make a video on this because immigration and why people have their beliefs about immigration is a pretty foggy topic out there for people on both sides. And again, I'm not even ascribing nefarious intentions to either side. This is just sheer truth. People are just voting in their own self interest. That's why people vote at the end of the day. If you didn't feel like voting would serve your own self interest, you don't vote. I know many people who do that. But anyway, if you liked the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And I do have a PayPal link posted in the description. So if you want to give me any money, I'd appreciate that. And yeah, it's about all. Stay tuned for more videos.